On this week's episode of Glee, Dream On, Brian Ryan, Neil Patrick Harris, comes from the school board and he says there has to be some budget cuts. Well, for most arts programs, those are like words of terror because arts are always the first to go because they seem to be those that are needed least by the students. While reading the Toward an Applied Professional Ethics of School Music article by Rajelski, Rajelski comments on the fact that if a school doesn't offer strings and some kids want to learn strings, it is the ethical duty of the school of music to provide this. This goes into the topic of duty ethics and what the school should be required to do. And even though he was just talking about cutting the entire music program, what would happen if there was a student who wanted music after that? It would be the ethical duty of the school to provide such, yes? Because then how else would the students have that outlet? Like, the school should be not required, but at least have the motivation to always fulfill a student's needs. Also, Brian Ryan is very mean to all of the students, besides the fact that he has a personal vendetta against Will Schuester, just from being in Glee Club with him when he was younger, and apparently that led him nowhere. He also talks to students in Glee Club, and he approaches it in a very rough manner and talks to them all as if they are going nowhere in life and tell them that their dreams aren't worth having and stuff. And that directly relates to the duty ethics topic that of psychological harassment, manipulation, or harm. Because not in just cutting the program, which all of these kids have worked so hard for, but also he is, like, psychologically harassing all of these kids, and violators, and as read in Rajelski, violators may include music teachers who resort to embarrassment, bullying, belittling, and intimidation tactics that can be devastating and have serious long-term negative consequences. Because you have all of these students who have worked their butt off to get where they are. You have people like Kurt, who is a homosexual, and he is having all these difficult things to deal with, and the music program is really his only place where he can express himself. And you have Mercedes, who's fighting with, like, her body image and stuff, and Glee Club is something she's good at. She's good at singing, and it's giving her another outlet, more so benefiting the students, and I think that anybody from the school board would realize. Going back to the topic of just budget cuts, that directly relates to Rajelski's, in the Rajelski article to page 9, where they were talking about the diversion of resources away from school music to more functional school subjects such as like reading or math that can thus be regarded as clear evidence of a professional failing. It's kind of up for the principal to decide which is more important here. And they have all this money that's going towards Cheerios, which isn't necessarily a subject like reading or math, but at this school it is. It seems to take precedence over Glee Club. And the school wasn't taking any money from them at first, and eventually ended up returning it after Brian Ryan and Sue Sylvester do their whole scheming thing, which is not really part of the issue. But the functionality of school music programs shouldn't be undermined just because they seem to be more, as I have heard people describe them, flimsy. It's a soft art, and nowadays people are too caught up in the fact that they just want facts and they just want people to have knowledge. Like, they don't necessarily want people to be able to feel, but learning how to feel, I feel, is just as important. Last but not least, touching on the topic of virtue ethics within this episode, you have the social transformation model. And this choir has transformed these students. As stated in the Rjelski article, a choir should do. School music should transform students musically and thus improve society. And it might not be improving society right away, but it is helping the lives of these few students who are in it, and those who have yet to experience it yet would never have the chance if you cut the program. And with a program being started like this, it needs a proper amount of time in order for it to fully be able to develop into where it can actually help more than just a couple students. I think that a lot of the episode is just completely ridiculous because Brian Ryan realizes where he went wrong and Will Schuester tries and helps him, which I wouldn't necessarily say proves that William Schuester knows everything he's doing. He's not necessarily the best teacher, but in this situation he stands up for the program in which he's made, which is really important and also shows the students how much he cares.